Welcome, everybody. Monday, May 27th. Camera's working. Shock of shock. Camera's working. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Oh, we don't have as many people here on YouTube today, I can see, probably because the holiday in America, I'm going to guess. Maybe. Anyway, hey, TikTokers or YouTubers. I'll wait half a minute for you all to catch up because I know it starts the show and then it always takes a minute for it to register that you're actually there. Let me go live on TikTok as well. There we go. I will wait to see the hellos. Here we go. TikTok, mirror. There we go. All right. TikTok is rolling and you are rolling. Hello, all. Hello, Andy in Oxford. Anyway, hello, all. Hey, TikTokers. I'm doing a decaf, so don't worry. I'm not going to be complete spaz during the show. Hey, Hugh. Hey, Penny Marie. Thanks for joining. Way Ray. Hey, Flying Medic, Linda, Andy, James, our subscribers on YouTube. There you are, Linda. Yeah, I swear it takes almost 45 seconds for it to catch up when I first launch, for it to show you guys. Hey, TikTokers. Thank you, Moo, for the gift. Having my decaf, as I said. Hey, Big Hawk, creepy as ever. You crack me up. Hey, buddy. How are you? Elizabeth, thank you for the gift. So welcome, everybody. It's a holiday in America. Thank you, Jane. Today is Memorial Day. It's the day that we celebrate basically our war dead, commemorate. We don't we do celebrate them. We celebrate the men and women who died in war. We don't celebrate the day, but we celebrate the men and women. But basically, it's the day we commemorate the fallen soldiers. Thank you, Soren Rasmussen, for the gift on YouTube. It's a day off for 90% of Americans. It's a federal holiday, so. Did not hear that, Terry. Did not see that story, no. Anyway, thank you, Ava. I love those kind of goofy gifts on TikTok. They crack me up. Actually, that one in particular, it hangs out a while and it lets you kind of hang in there. Anyway, hello, guys. I'm going to finish my little coffee and then we'll get rolling. It's decaf, so I won't be a maniac during the show. I had one little decaf pod left. I thought, I feel like coffee, but I don't feel like being a psycho with my coffee. Yep, Vasil, we will be talking about, or Basil, I guess that's a book. We will be talking about the fact that France looks like they're sending troops to Ukraine for trainings. Thank you, Super Hornet, for the gift. And yes, this is, it's either American or French. I couldn't tell you which, but when I used to go to France a lot, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Super Hornet. I would grab the little yogurt containers and keep them because they're made of glass, and I think they're really cute. So I use this as my little espresso glass. It's very good. I have some other little, who is that? Thank you, Chef. Thank you, John. I have some other little creme brulee dishes from, oh my God, the French desserts. French desserts in a store are to die for. I lived in France for a while, and I've been there a lot. Since then, I studied in France. I worked there for a summer as well. Actually, I forgot about that. But the creme brulee in the store comes in these beautiful glass dishes that are just stunning. Thank you, Elizabeth. And I brought two of them back with me. And frankly, I should have, because I kept buying. I buy a little chocolate. It's almost like a chocolate creme brulee. Oh my God, in the store to die for. But I brought the little. So anyway, yes, those cups are little glasses I got in France. Thank you, Chazak, for the rose. So okay, guys, ready to get rolling here. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my nightly show. I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, US. The connection is being good today. It was being a little weird this weekend, actually. We weren't sure why, but it's been good today. Aldi has them. Oh, that's interesting, Ash. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, I love the little glasses. I think they're really cute, the little ramekins. Is the EU the vassal of the USA? I wish. The EU seems to be pretty damn independent of the USA. That was kind of the concept. Yeah, not even close. Not even close. But yes, I wish the EU were our vassal, but it's not. So thank you, Sexceed. So welcome, guys. So this is my show I do every Monday to Friday, almost every day, 6 o'clock weekend or 6 o'clock weekdays, Eastern Time, US. That's Washington, D.C. time where I am. And we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Also, other big news as it comes up. There was actually a horrific landslide in Papua New Guinea like right off of Australia, basically, right north of Australia, more or less. I actually had to Google exactly where, because South Pacific, I never quite know where things are, being a typical American. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, user336. Horrific, though. Like as of this morning, when I saw the latest news, 2,000 people were buried alive. I mean, horrific story. In like I said, South Pacific country of Papua New Guinea. Really scary. Anyway, but yes, so we do touch on other news occasionally if there's big news going on. But today we are doing Ukraine as always. The way the show works is I go and cull stories before the day starts or before the show starts, then sort of go through what I think is the most important news of the day. Thank you, Sharon. I try to pick stories that give you a sense of what's actually going on. SG, unless Rafa's a town in Ukraine, the reason I'm not talking about it is because this is Ukraine update. I always love when the Palestinian supporters want to hijack the show. Why aren't you talking about Palestine? Because this is the Ukraine war update. So unless the Palestinians get involved in the war in Ukraine, it's not really relevant. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Snowblade. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to go through the news. I will take your guys' questions the second half of the show. What I also do is, as the show's going on, I do occasionally try to, look at the news and sort of pick stuff up. Like Xander has a question about Hungary. I'm going to be talking about them in a second. Very, very obnoxious news out of Hungary, as always. Thank you, Mikey, for the hearts. And as always, if you guys can, I appreciate the gifts. The super chat, super stickers on YouTube, the gifts on TikTok. And if you want to sign up to be a subscriber, a monthly subscriber, that would be amazing, or member, depending what they call it on each service. But basically, it means you promise to donate a certain amount each month. I think the starting might be $6.99, something like that. Xander, yep, I figured it's Xander, or Xander, depending how. Writing Xandr doesn't necessarily say how it's pronounced, just so you know, because it could be Xander in English, it could be Xander, right? Exactly. So any case, but yeah, so let me get rolling. But guys, yeah, please do subscriptions if you can. We do a weekly update or a weekend update for subscribers, which is nice too, just for you guys. So let's get rolling here. Today is day 823 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Russia this weekend bombed a shopping mall in Kharkiv in northeast Ukraine. Kharkiv, you hear a lot about. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city, all the way up here. Very close to the Russian border, like 20 miles or so, maybe 30 kilometers from the Russian border. And the Russians, well, in Kharkiv especially, but honestly, in this war overall, the Russians have been targeting civilians. And we've talked about this a lot. There is, you are going to be very hard pressed to find a military anywhere in the world. And I say that on purpose because, as you guys know, I'm not a fan of people that go for like simplistic analyses and say, oh, these guys are all bad. The Russians are actually quite unique in targeting civilians and exclusively civilians on purpose. The Russians do not kill civilians by accident. The Russians do not kill civilians because they don't care if they're killing civilians, right? But they were going after a military target, but it was in the middle of civilians and they don't care. That's not why the Russians kill civilians. All the experts will tell you, the military defense experts will tell you, Russia targets civilians on purpose. Their military target is killing civilians. It is not that there are military guys there. It is not that there's a general there. It's not that there's a headquarters there. They bombed a store, a home goods, not a home goods, a DIY construction store. Basically, what would you call this? In America, we would call it Home Depot. Basically, thank you, adventurers. They bombed what would be the Ukrainian equivalent of a Home Depot this weekend, killed 18 people, injured 44 others. Horrific attack. This was not a mistake. This is not something where the experts are saying, they weren't trying to bomb the store. Russia routinely, and it's actually not like Israel at all. No, because in this case, Russia's target is to kill civilians. In Israel's case, they're trying to kill Hamas. Hamas is hiding among civilians, and you could definitely argue, that Israel doesn't care if it kills civilians, right? You could argue that. That is a different argument, and that, by the way, can easily be a war crime. Let's not sugarcoat it. But that is entirely different than saying Russia's target in Ukraine, more often than not, is literally civilians. There is no military hiding there. They do not think there's a military target in the area. They do not think soldiers are hiding among civilians, which is what Hamas is doing. Thank you, Marie. They are quite literally targeting domestic stores. They hit a printing press last week. They destroyed a Ukrainian printing press that is has published a lot of, in the old days, we called them Russian refuseniks, but basically Russian opposition folks, right, who are speaking out against Russia. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Ocean Crone. Really horrific, just really horrific. Just what they did. In any case, it was a big story this weekend. Like I said, a lot of footage Vlad sent me from the shopping center. It's just they just blew up. They blew up a do-it-yourself home improvement store, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's what they do. Thank you, Kelsey. In terms of how things are going, British Defense Ministry says Russia's gains in the Northeast have not been joined up. Now, when they say that, I think what they mean is that, Russia's been doing a lot of attacks in the East, especially the Northeast. They've been attacking near, actually, it's a great point. Jerry said like IKEA. I probably should have said kind of like IKEA, but like IKEA, if IKEA sold a lot of lumber, a lot of wood, a lot of toilets, right? I think they may sell toilets, but like a lot of lumber and wood and stuff too, where literally you go to buy all the little supplies that you buy supplies when you are fixing things at your home, hammers, right? Windows. So it's a little different than in America, it would be Lowe's or Home Depot. In Europe, not really IKEA. I forget what you'd call it in Europe. What would be a store that's like this? Where, as I said, like imagine where you'd buy wood to build stuff. It's a hardware store, but it's huge. Yeah, but again, Ash, in the States, we already know what it is. It's like Menards. They're all the same in the States. But in Europe, I'm not sure what you'd call it. Hornbach? I don't know, Caroline. Yeah. I'm trying to think like for Bauhaus, maybe. Yeah. I'm trying to think like for Homebase. Okay. You guys are giving some examples for Europe now. I was trying to find for the Europeans what an example was. And by the way, thank you, James. I did see your super sticker there. Appreciate it on YouTube. I was trying to think of what the example would be to the Europeans. Le Roi Merlin in France. That's a good example. Yep. Any case, very bad. So, so the Russians, according to the British Ministry of Defense, the Russians have not done a good job basically syncing up their attacks. They've been taking over some land in northeastern Ukraine near Kharkiv, but they've not been able to basically take that land, thank you, Jedamam, and join it together with other land that they've occupied in order to defend it all effectively. So that's good news. The British Ministry of Defense says Putin's attempts to create a buffer zone between Ukraine and Russia has been unsuccessful thus far, and further gains were unlikely in the coming weeks. Now, one of the goals Putin had in attacking near Kharkiv, he had several goals, really. One of them, so Kharkiv's right here. Putin's been attacking up here, trying to go after, there's an area, a town called Volshansk, which is right on the Ukrainian border of Ukraine and Russia, right here. The Russians have been going after Volshansk in the area for a couple of reasons. One, Ukraine has been quite effectively hitting the Russian town of Belgorod. Belgorod is, almost as far from the border. Kharkiv, like I said, is maybe 20 miles, 30 kilometers south of the Ukrainian-Russian border. Belgorod is maybe 20 miles, 30 kilometers north of the Ukrainian-Russian border. So it's right up here, right? It's just as right up here, just as close to the border. The Ukrainians have done a very good job hitting Belgorod with missiles, with artillery, with drones. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Championess. Belgorod is a very important military hub, logistics hub, right? Getting fuel, ammunition, stuff like that to the Russian troops fighting the area here. So the Ukrainians have been hitting it pretty hard. What the Russians are trying to do, one of the things they're trying to do in attacking Ukraine here, they want to take some of Ukraine's land. And if they take some of Ukraine's land here near the border, they effectively push Ukraine further south, right? Currently, Ukraine can go up to the border with Russia and blow, boom, artillery, etc., at Belgorod. If the Russians were to take this borderland with Ukraine, right, they would push the Ukrainian troops down, maybe 5 miles, maybe 10 miles, right? 5, 10 kilometers. Well, if you push the Ukrainians south by 5 kilometers or 5 miles, that's 5 miles less that they can shoot into Russia, right? So let's say the range is this going into Russia. If you push the Ukrainians down, this top range is not here, it's here, right? So it pushes the Ukrainians further south, and the idea is maybe it can help to stop the, the Russians are hoping it'll help make it harder for the Ukrainians to hit. Thank you for the unicorn fantasy, Dark. I appreciate it. I didn't say thank you. Sorry. I was in the middle of pointing to my map. I appreciate that. I see everybody else was very excited about it. Little bit. Okay. So that's it for that. But basically they're not succeeding in creating a buffer zone. That's great. The other thing the Russians were doing, which they did succeed at, the Russians were going after this area here, because it's near Kharkiv. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city, population 1.5 million. And the Russians know that the Ukrainians can't afford to lose Kharkiv, right? It's a city of 1.5 million. It's their second largest city. So when the Russians put a lot of troops near the border here, the Ukrainians have no choice but to buttress the forces here. They have to take forces from elsewhere. Where are they taking it from? They're taking forces from over here. These are forces. There are battles with Russia going on all along here, the front. The Russians, I'm going to tighten up my map again soon. The Russians control all of this in Ukraine, and there are battles happening really all along here, really. The Russians going after Kharkiv or threatening Kharkiv. Ukrainians have had to move troops up here. That means Ukraine has fewer troops here now, and it's making it easier for the Russians to fight the Ukrainians here. So that's the other thing the Russians have been doing. Very interesting story yesterday out of Ukraine. This is kind of fascinating. The U.S., I'm sure, is not happy. A lot of defense experts I saw were not happy. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm pretty agnostic. And honestly, I even support Ukraine a little on this one, meaning I don't think it's a mistake what Ukraine is doing. But hang on a sec, sip of water. So the Ukrainians, for the second time in several days, thank you, Maddie, thank you, Jeremy. For the second time in several days, the Ukrainians have hit a long-range radar deep inside Russia. This latest radar was, I believe, 1,500 kilometers, 1,000 miles inside Russia, way to the east. And the Ukrainians, at least according to satellite image, it looks like the Ukrainians caused some damage. Thank you, Rocket. Thank you, Maddie, for the gifts. What is interesting about this is this radar has multiple purposes. It is believed, I've not seen anything definitive on this yet, but it's believed that the Russians are able to use this radar to basically, whether it's targeting inside Ukraine or whatever they do, but they're using it for their attacks on Ukraine. But this is where it gets, this is a really significant story. Where this gets really interesting is this radar is also used by the Russians to be on the alert if America were to launch a nuclear attack against Russia. It's used to basically see incoming, ICBMs, things like that, incoming nuclear missiles from America, coming across the globe. That's what makes it so interesting that Ukraine has now gone after 2 of these radars, okay? From a Russian perspective, this is a disaster if Ukraine's able to take out these targets. Thank you, Christopher. From a Russian perspective, you start taking out these radar, and it means America could perhaps launch an attack against Russia, and the Russians might not see it in time, or not, I don't know what, depending how you define in time. Thank you, Christopher, again for the rose. A lot of defense experts, here's why we don't like it. A lot of defense experts are upset about this. Thank you, Christopher, because they think it makes it more dangerous out there for everybody. That if the Russians lose their ability or have a degraded ability to see incoming American missiles, in other words, it would be an American first strike, you call it, in nuclear parlance, meaning Americans go, let's launch a secret attack on Russia before they know it, and we'll just cripple the country, and they'll never have enough weapons to hit us back. It's total bullshit. It's total BS. Thank you, Lamb Chop. The Russians have got nuclear weapons on submarines and stuff they could hit us with. So we're not going to do an attack on Russia. But nonetheless, thank you, Elizabeth, for the paper crane. And thank you, Elizabeth, for the massage. The concern is, by a lot of defense experts, that this could freak the Russians out. It could, maybe even make the Russians more likely to launch a war against America because they're worried, oh my God, their nuclear shield with their radars aren't working, this kind of thing, right? I'm very intrigued by this because what the defense guys are saying is, and I guarantee you they're right about this, Biden is probably, crapping his pants. Biden, I'm sure, is livid. Jake Sullivan at the White House, I'm sure, is livid that the Ukrainians went after these targets. Too bad. We are still tying Ukraine's hands. We are still not letting Ukraine use American weapons to hit inside Russia. Russia, for example, its attacks on Kharkiv, guess where Russia's attacks when they just blew up the hardware store this weekend and killed 18 people? Guess where these attacks are basically coming from? They're coming from Russia, guys. The Ukrainians are not allowed to attack back. First of all, the Americans, originally we said we don't even want the Ukrainians using their own weapons to attack inside Russia. Now, mind you, again, let's put a finer point on this. The Russians are across the Ukrainian border. They're using artillery. They're using, rockets. They're using everything to fire into Ukraine and kill Ukrainians, especially Ukrainian civilians. The Americans would prefer, the Germans too, that the Ukrainians not even use their own weapons to fire back at the Russians if the Russians are in Russia, because Putin may get angry. We've also told them under no uncertain terms, can they use American weapons or German weapons to fire inside Russia against the Russians? Ukraine is having a rather difficult time of this, right? Things are looking a little better, but Ukraine is having a hard time with the war. MAGA Republicans in Congress at Donald Trump's demand cut off aid to Ukraine for 6 months. It was a huge gift of Vladimir Putin. Even the British, it was the defense minister or the foreign minister said so, the foreign secretary. The Republicans did Putin a huge favor, and Putin is doing better in the war right now. I wouldn't say he's winning because it's still, he doesn't really have a path to victory, but we don't have a path to victory either is the problem. But he's doing better because we tied the Ukrainians' hands. At this point, if I were Ukraine, thank you, adventurers. Thank you, me Mike. I would be doing, and thank you. Who's that? Yeah, Pizdoliz. Thank you for the hearts. I would be doing a hell of a lot more than going after Russia's radars. Thank you, Mustard. If I were Ukraine at this point, I would make the war so costly for Russia. I mean, again, things that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube, I might get away with this. TikTok, there's no way I could suggest to you what I would suggest Ukraine do. But it would be very bad things, often called irregular warfare. Thank you, Max Trax. And thank you, Boribus, for signing up as a monthly subscriber on YouTube. Make sure to join us on our Saturday show. I do a show every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's just for the members. So if you're around Saturday morning, join us, 11 a.m. Eastern, as I said, Washington, D.C. So this is very interesting what's going on. Thank you, Alex. Like I said, the U.S. is understandably upset because the U.S. is like, you're going after Russia's nuclear capability and making it harder for Russia to see incoming American nukes, which means Russia might freak out and use nukes first. Again, I'm not convinced that's going to happen, but I can see why the Americans would be upset. Having said that, I can also see why the Ukrainians are upset because at this point, guys, our country isn't on the line. Theirs is. Thank you, Flower Lady. And if I were the Ukrainians, I would be very close to putting everything on the table. There would be nothing I wouldn't do. I'd be very close to saying there's nothing I wouldn't do. If Russia really starts to get the upper hand and Russia really were to start taking over, like risking taking Kharkiv or losing Ukraine entirely, then all bets would truly be off. Thank you, adventurers. Any case, this is a very interesting story because, as I said, Ukraine, it's not entirely clear to me what Ukraine is up to. Thank you, Jake. And what I mean by that is whether they're simply going after Russia's capabilities to attack Ukraine, or whether Ukraine is basically saying, you know what, you keep going after us, and we are going to go after exactly that. We're going to make it harder for you to defend yourself against an American nuclear attack. That's the kind of thing that would freak the Russians out. And if Ukraine's job here is to make the war so costly for Russia that the Russians, cry uncle. They basically say, okay, that's an American expression, maybe British too, meaning, okay, we quit. This is too dangerous. So I am not going to fault the Ukrainians for doing this, especially since we are still tying their hands behind their back when it comes to attacking Russia. So you know what? If we wanted Ukraine to win, we wouldn't be in a position where Ukraine was in danger of losing and Ukraine would have to start doing desperate actions. You don't want Ukraine to get desperate? Help them win the damn war. Otherwise, don't complain about it. Exactly. John Topper says Ukraine has to do whatever they have to do. They're in a war, a very real war if they lose. And the thing is, thank you, Brock Smith, wars have rules. This is why a lot of people are upset with Israel, right? Because wars have rules. Mind you, the Palestinians have been terrorists for 75 years. They're not exactly adhering to the rules either. But people get upset at Israel because it doesn't, Netanyahu doesn't seem to be following the rules either. You don't want to necessarily say that any country under attack can just break the rules and commit acts of terror, right? I mean, things. Oh, thank you, Phoenix. You are on a roll today. Thank you for that one. The TikTok lion, oh, Leon the kitten lion. Thank you for that. Thank you, Hector, for the rose. So you don't want to say just because a country is under attack, it's okay for them to commit acts of terror, for example, or go after nuclear radar, stuff like that. But if Ukraine's, well, first of all, there's no war crime in going after Russia's nuclear radar. That's allowed. There's no war crime with that. That's totally allowed. But acts of terror would be a different story, right? Anyway, it's a very interesting question. It is a very nice gift. I am going to upset some of you guys by telling my Alexa to lower the temperature. If you've got Alexa connected to your thermostat, be careful. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. There we go. Let's see. She doesn't always get it. Alexa, what's the thermostat set to? Sorry, my
The AC is set to 76.
Okay. Oh God. Alexa, set the air conditioning to 74.
Air filter doesn't support that.
My God. Alexa, set the air conditioning to 74. So fucking stupid. Oh God. You guys get to witness this like real time. Alexa, set the AC to 74.
The AC is set to 74.
Thank you. Hey, Vaughn, thank you for the gift. The reason I have to keep stopping the show and adjusting the temperature is because, of course, it does get very hot in here. But I typically use my phone and my iPad for this. My iPad is how I beam to TikTok, and my phone is how I beam to YouTube. That's how I've got such a good camera on YouTube, so that I'd have to get up and go to my thermostat, which I can do. But at some point, this is just ridiculous. I need a wearable thermostat. I do. I need like a little Star Trek thing on my arm or something. I am in Washington, D.C., Xander. We are not a state. We wish we were, but we're not a state. Any case, let's move on. Russia is producing artillery shells around 3 times faster than Ukraine's Western allies, and for about a quarter of the cost. This, according to a new analysis by Bain & Company, provided to Sky News. This is a great story. I wish I could show you this video. Again, it's on my phone, so there's no way for me to show it to you. The Russians' new tank, the T-90, Vladimir Putin called it the best tank in the world, and they're very proud of it, right? Well, it's been having a glitch where basically, and the wonderful video out today about this, there is when the tank gets hit from on top, and not necessarily crippled, but hit on top, so there's some damage. The turret is the gun, right? The gun and the main area with the gun that spins, right? The turret starts to spin around 360 and just keeps spinning. And you're sitting inside. There's nothing you can do, right? You're literally in a revolving thing that you can't control that's spinning. The crew has to then abandon the tank. And this has been happening a lot to the Russian tanks. This is Russia's top tank. Putin called it the best tank in the world. Big surprise. Thank you, Alex, for the gift. It's not the best tank in the world. It's Russian manufacturing, and well, we all know how well that works. Anyway, it made me laugh because it was very funny to watch the videos. Go Google some videos online. It's fab. It tilt a whirl, exactly. This is another huge story today. France is reportedly sending troops to Ukraine to do trainings. They will reportedly not be actively fighting, but they are going to send French military troops to Ukraine to actually train Ukrainians on how to fight, rather than having them go to France and train, which takes more time and all of that. This is very interesting development. Now, what's really interesting about this is France has kind of been threatening this for 3-4 months now, right? 3 months now. When France first threatened it, the Germans and the Americans got upset. Actually, all of Europe got upset too. The Germans and the Americans went, and all the rest of the Europeans went, no, we're not going to send troops. Then the Czech government came around and said, we might send troops. The Polish government came around and said, we might send troops. And I think it was the Estonian government that also came around and said, we might send troops. Well, the French are actually sending them. This was according to at least the Ukrainian defense minister today. So it's very interesting. It is an escalation. That's fine with me, meaning it's doing something pretty significant that they didn't do before. This is good. I mean, I'm glad they're doing this. It's very good. No, this is a very good development. It is risky, but part of what you want to keep doing is doing things that make it harder for Putin to fight the fight. If there are French troops there, the Russians have to worry about whether they're bombing French troops, because if they bomb French troops, they could go to war with France. And if they go to war with France, they could go to war with NATO, right? So what France is effectively doing is now making the calculation much riskier for the Russians, at least when they go after military headquarters, things like that. And frankly, that's a good thing. So anyway, I thought this was a great story, but it's interesting to see because we've been hearing about this for several months, about France, and then, like I said, Poland, Czech Republic, and I think Estonia, talking about, they'd be open to sending troops. And now we're seeing the French actually doing it, which is pretty well. So anyway, Sweden publicly gave permission this weekend to Ukraine to use Swedish weapons to strike targets on Russian soil. Remember, I was telling you earlier that the French and the Germans, for example, do not let the Ukrainians use our weapons to strike targets on Russian soil. The Swedes said, go for it, which was great from Sweden. This was from German Chancellor Scholz today, put out some information, which I thought was very interesting about Russian casualties. Now, thank you, Courtney, for the gift. You've got to remember that in military terms, the word casualty means dead or injured. So a soldier that is injured but still alive is a casualty. I think the idea is basically they're no longer useful, right? So it's this larger category of troops that you've taken out of action, even though they may not be dead. Well, German Chancellor Scholz, who's the top official in Germany, top government official, says that Russia is suffering around 24,000 soldiers killed or seriously injured per month. That's around 288,000 men a year, guys. That's a huge number. I'm trying to think in military terms, guys. If you're a good military, your death rate should be small. Russia's military, because they've traditionally been really bad at their medics, the healthcare they give. There's this thing called like the golden hour, which is like the first hour after a serious injury, which pretty much decides if a soldier is going to live or die. The Russians are very bad at intervening and saving the soldiers' lives. I don't remember at the beginning of the war, but you guys, any of you defense guys remember, was it something like 1 in 3 would be the expected death rate of in other words, if it's 28,000 a month that are seriously injured or killed, if you're talking about the Russians, would the death rate be 25% of those maybe? I'm just curious because they didn't give that figure, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just curious. Anyway, it takes a second for you guys to catch up, but I'm curious. Oh, interesting. Courtney's saying 1 in 8. That's better for the Russians if that's the case. Thank you, Elizabeth. 1 in 8 would be better, but 1 in 8 would still be 3,500 dead a month, which is not small, right? That's not small. Any case, but I thought that was very interesting news on that front. What else we got here? Poland. Oh, so Hungary. Yeah. So Hungary being kind of an idiot. We're not sending any Russian money to Ukraine, DJ. And actually, by the way, because DJ's being a troll, giving Russian talking points. The Russians love to put out the talking point claiming, you're sending our money to Ukraine. Actually, we're sending our money to Ohio. Like 90% of the American aid for Ukraine goes to American companies to build weapons. It actually goes into American pockets. It actually provides jobs in America and wages to American workers. So if you want to cut off money to American workers because you so love Vladimir Putin, I think that's kind of screwed up and anti-American, but hey, you be you. Poland. So the Poland Ministry of Foreign Affairs today, the actual foreign minister came out and criticized, actually the ministry criticized Hungary for blocking almost half of all European Union decisions regarding Ukraine. They said specifically the Hungarians are blocking the 8th refund package for aid delivered by member states. Now, I believe what that means is countries will give aid to Ukraine and then the European Union will reimburse the countries, and that the reimbursement helps countries out, right? Because, if let's say you're going to send, I don't know, 200 million in aid to Ukraine and you're the Czech Republic doing it or Poland, the European Union will reimburse you. Thank you, Common, from funds that the European Union promised to spend. The Hungarians are stopping it. So mind you, the Hungarians, what this means is the Hungarians, and they're run by a man who's pro-Russian. He hates Ukraine. Actually, honestly, he hates NATO and hates the European Union too. He's very pro-Russian. To me, the guy is a perfect example of the kind of communist dictators that ran Hungary during the Cold War. These guys were animals. These were horrific communist dictatorships. When Russia, World War II ended, the Russians basically grabbed Eastern Europe and turned it into a series of communist dictatorships, horrific human rights abuses for 45 years. Hungary was one of them. The Russian troops came in and killed Hungarians. They killed Hungarian students. They also killed Czech students. This was 1956 in Hungary. There was a freedom movement. They just came in and killed everybody. It was in tanks, horrific. Well, the Hungarian government is stopping European countries from even being reimbursed for helping Ukraine. So now they're literally taking money away, not just from Ukraine, they're taking money away from European countries, guys. And the Polish foreign ministry went after them today, went after them hard. Honestly, I think we are at the point where we need to tell Hungary to get out of NATO and to get out of the European Union. And it's not a bluff. And we tell them, you want to be a normal functioning member of the alliance? Act like it. You want to be a member of the new Warsaw Pact under the Russians, and you want to join the great Russian economic military coalition of these best countries in the world here: Belarus, Libya, Syria, right? North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba. Actually, North Korea, there isn't even an ally. I mean, they're an ally, but they're not part of the coalition. But really, like Venezuela, Cuba, Libya, Syria, and Belarus, those wild, and Serbia, exactly. That other really important, big economic and military powerhouse, Serbia, right? You want to join them instead of attaching yourself economically to the European Union? You'd rather attach yourself to Belarus instead of attaching yourself in terms of military terms to Great Britain, the Americans, the French, the Germans, the Poles. You'd rather have Belarus defending you and Venezuela? Be my freaking guest. But at this point, or Eritrea, I should have mentioned Eritrea. Yeah, that great economic and military powerhouse of Eritrea in Africa. But I think somebody finally needs to, we're playing games here, guys. And I understand where we're doing it to a degree. You don't want people leaving alliances. This was the concern. There was a lot of concerns with Britain leaving the European Union because Britain is such a big freaking country, right? And the economic powerhouse, military powerhouse. Hungary, not an economic powerhouse, not a military powerhouse. They apparently do some work in Kosovo and they do some work in Iraq. I have a difficult time believing that we can't replace the all-powerful Hungarian military that I've never heard a thing about in 30 years of freedom. I can't imagine that the European Union can't survive without the great Hungarian economy, which produces what? Paprika and Christmas ornaments? Or actually, the Christmas ornaments probably come from the Czech Republic. Does Hungary produce anything other than paprika? Really? I mean, I'm joking, but I'm only slightly joking. I've never heard a damn thing coming out of Hungary militarily or economically. We need to tell them, if you want to join the Russians and you want them to be your economic partner instead of France and Germany, be my guest. Right? You want to pull out of Europe and hitch your wagon to Belarus? Be my freaking guest. And frankly, Hungarians voted for this joker. They voted for this guy. He got reelected. Hungarians are this is just like Donald Trump, frankly. You know, if you're going to vote for the man and if the country elects him, then the country's to blame. You know, goulash. Yeah, they've got goulash too. Although I think there's goulash in a number of surrounding countries too. In any case, so yeah, Hungary's being just typical Hungary. What else we got here? My little usual pitch. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. I do this for free and I do it full time. This show I've been doing now for 2 years and 3 months since February. Actually, I may have started the show beginning of March of 2022, the week after Russia invaded. I do it full time. So you guys help me pay the bills. So please keep the gifts coming on YouTube and TikTok, and please consider buying some more of those monthly memberships. Those are the most helpful for the long term. I mean, the gifts give me more money immediately, but the memberships are really helpful for the long term. So if you can, I consider it. And finally, you can ask the mods kind of how to do it if you can. But thank you. Thank you, Timothy. What else we got? Poland imposed restrictions on the freedom of movement of Russian diplomats within Poland due to the participation of the Russian state in hybrid war against the EU, including Poland. There were explosions reported. Thank you, Jake, for the gift on YouTube. There were explosions reported near the infrastructure facilities of the former Luhansk High Military Aviation School. Basically, the Ukrainians hit an aviation target in eastern Ukraine that's been occupied, which is great. Lithuania just had elections, according to Bloomberg. Lithuanian President Nausėda, I'm not going to pronounce this well. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the hearts, was elected to a second 5-year term as voters in the Baltic nation backed continuity in foreign policy and a hard line on the threat of Russian aggression. So the final thing I want to read to folks, thank you, Jennifer. And, you know, if you're a Trumper, sorry, but you need to hear the truth. Today's Memorial Day in America. It's the day that we honor the war dead. And Donald Trump famously criticized American troops who were killed in action. He refused to visit American military cemeteries in France when he was there. The first reason was it was raining and he didn't want to get his hair wet. The second reason, and this came from his chief of staff, Donald Trump's own Republican chief of staff of the White House, who ran the White House for him. Thank you, Martin. His guy that he hired said that Trump said that he doesn't like to visit American war dead because they are suckers and losers for A, getting captured, or B, getting killed. If you are an American soldier who is killed in action, Donald Trump said you are a sucker and a loser, and he will not visit your cemetery to see you because you're a bad person for getting killed. It is important to bring this up because this is the topic, Connor. And I will say this, Connor, too. If you're offended because I'm defending dead American killed in action, then you've come to the wrong site. Okay? Because seriously. I mean, I don't even dare step up and get upset because someone is upset about Donald Trump calling American killed in action in World War II and World War I, and frankly, war since then, suckers and losers. You know, I love when the Trumpers do this. But this is the problem of the Trump. By the way, I'm going to read you what Trump said today for Memorial Day. And by the way, this matters for Ukraine because if this man gets elected, he said he's cutting off all aid to Ukraine like he did for the last 6 months. Thank you, Chris, for the gifts. Okay, let's just get into this. So thank you, Dot, for the subscription. Here's what Joe Biden said today to commemorate America's war dead. And then I'm going to read you what Donald Trump said today to commemorate America's war dead. Okay, let's start with Biden. And Biden put this really nice graphic up showing the American military cemetery and this wonderful quote about the men and women who have died and their families. Biden writes, this was on Twitter, since America's founding, our service members have laid down their lives for an idea unlike any other, the idea of the United States. Today, as generations of heroes lie in eternal peace, we live by the light of liberty they kept burning. May God bless them always. And then he followed by a pic of tombstones and talking about a beautiful quote about the war dead. Here is the quote that Donald Trump issued today on his version of Twitter that he runs. I'm going to read you this in its entirety because this is how effed up this is. Donald Trump writes, this is Donald Trump's Memorial Day message, guys. Okay? The man was president of the United States, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Happy Memorial Day to all, including the human scum that is working so hard to destroy our once great country, and to the radical left, Trump-hating federal judge in New York that presided over, get this, 2 separate trials that awarded a woman who I never met before. This is the woman Trump was convicted of basically raping. The judge came out and said he was convicted of rape. Not convicted. The jury did decide that Trump raped her. The thing is that the definition of rape in New York is different than nationally, and that from American cultural definition, the jury concluded that Trump raped her. This is what he's complaining about, the fact that he got basically held responsible for raping a woman, okay? And actually, Connor, Google it. Don't give me this bullshit Trump supporter crap that you guys lie all the time. Google the federal judge in the Trump trial. Google the judge in the Trump trial, the Trump rape trial. Google it. And you will find the statement from the judge saying that, yes, in fact, Donald Trump was found guilty of rape because of the definition in New York being different. So listen to this. It goes on. Trump makes Memorial Day, our killed in action, a defense of why he raped this woman, okay? 2 separate trials that awarded a woman who I've never met before a quick handshake at a celebrity event 25 years ago doesn't count, $91 million for defamation. She didn't know when the so-called event took place sometime in the 1990s. He's still talking about the woman he raped. Okay. Thank you, Macabre. Never filed a police report, didn't have to produce the dress that she threatened me with. It showed negative, and sung my praises in the first half of her interview with Allison Cooper. He's calling Anderson Cooper Allison Cooper, I think, who knows why? Maybe because it's a girl's name and he's gay. It sounds like a girl's name, even though it's a musician. But changed, or actually, he's calling her Allison. Actually, that's exactly what he's doing. Donald Trump is calling Anderson Cooper, an American, really famous American broadcaster, Allison, because he's giving him a girl's name because he's gay. This is our former commander-in-chief commemorating America's war dead. He's making a gay slur. But changed her tune in the second half. Gee, I wonder why. Under appeal, the rape charge was dropped by a jury. Or Arthur Engeron, the New York State wacko judge who fined me almost $500 million under appeal for doing nothing wrong, used a statute that has never been used before, gave me no jury, Mar-a-Lago at $18 million, now for Merchant. He then went on in a subsequent, there was another tweet I'm not even reading to you guys. This was Donald Trump's message commemorating America's war dead today, our dead military members. This was his message, okay? This was the message he issued. This is the message he issued. This is why I'm saying you defend this man and you are unfortunately saying horrific things about yourself. I don't care if you support Ukraine. I am going to go public on this stuff because this is disgusting. This is not a difference in policy. This is not Trump disagrees with Biden about, the specific weapons we give Ukraine. That I can deal with. Okay. But this kind of crap, and the fact that some of you still defend him and then get offended, I'm sure they're gone now, which frankly is fine with me. But that people get, oh, I'm going to leave because you criticized Trump for criticizing our war dead? Seriously, go F yourself. I mean, I really mean, like, it's completely inappropriate. But this is who this guy is, and this is the crap he does. You know? Yeah. We've got an alleged Brit. Here we go. An alleged Brit. This is my favorite when these people pretend to be British. A British person who's offended that I criticized Donald Trump. That's the first thing, okay? He's a liar, right? You're British and you're offended that I criticized Donald Trump. Why the do you care if I criticize Donald Trump if you're British? Like, I couldn't care less if you criticize Rishi Sunak or whatever the hell, Keir Starmer or whatever the hell the name is of the labor leader in Britain. Why the hell do I care? I'm American. If that bothers you that much and you're British, you're either lying about being British or you're kind of screwed up. I'm sorry. Anyway, guys, keep the gifts coming since we've got people leaving and being rude. Please do keep the gifts coming because thank you, Kelman. Thank you, Andrew. The easiest thing for me to do, thank you, Dawn. You are always there for me, Dawn. That's a really cool one too, by the way. That's pretty. I've never seen that before. Oh, Flower Lady, we've got it. We've got a wave. Thank you, Deep Press for the fire and Paper for the rose. It really pisses me off. It just really pisses me off. I mean, and the thing is, Jeff, because Jeff was saying I'm British and I support your stance. There's something screwed up with you if you're British. Man, you live in England, guys. And you're so beholden to Donald Trump that you get upset when an American criticizes Trump and you storm off and say, I'm not coming back because you criticized Donald. You're freaking British. What is wrong with you? This is why I'm saying it's a cult. It's a freaking cult. Like I said, I couldn't care less if somebody criticizes the British Prime Minister or the British opposition leader. I couldn't give a flying fig because I'm not British. Who cares? There's something wrong with you guys. There really is. But again, keep in mind, the reason these guys stormed off is because we criticized Donald Trump for criticizing America's war dead and for refusing to honor them on Memorial Day, the day that we commemorate our dead from our wars. Anyway, thank you, Dale. Thank you, Mikey. It's sick. It's really sick. Yeah, the Trump trolls are out today. Yeah, because the courts are off. Maybe. No, it's just really screwed up. It's really screwed up. Anyway. No, at this point, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Starr. Thank you, Esperon. I'm a student of history. I'm not going to sit back and sit here and sit here. Troops love Trump. He freaking hates them. He's called them suckers and losers. Now, if you're saying a lot of American troops are like hard right Republicans, yeah, they are. Of course they are. That's not a surprise. There's no tornado warning right now in DC. My phone would be going crazy if there were. I don't think there is. Actually, there isn't a tornado warning because it's sunny out. There was a tornado watch for the last several hours in DC going through tonight. Just be very careful what you write because Magic, be careful with that. In the middle of the show, I don't want people saying there's a tornado warning in Washington unless there is one. There isn't. Yeah, unless CNN, I doubt they said there's a tornado warning. There's a watch until midnight, but it's literally sunny outside. So there's no way that there's a warning yet. And the thing is, I can't check. There's no way for me to check here. In any case, so that's the news for today. Let's hang out and chat, guys. No, that's okay. Just be careful because like a warning means go for shelter. So I need to make sure that's absolutely accurate if it is. You don't know nothing about Ukraine. You don't know anything about English either, apparently. It's you don't know anything, not you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing about birth and babies. Zerpachi, I don't know what that means. Difference in definition of what? No, I appreciate magical. I appreciate that, but because it's tornado warnings, get it right. Because anybody who doesn't live from tornado areas, tornado warning means go for shelter downstairs and grab the dog and hide. Anyway, I'm hot again. I need to lower the temperature 1 degree. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree.
The AC is set to 73.
Jamie, if you did a subscription gift, it should have popped up on the screen. It should have popped up on the screen, and there should have been a little. Thank you, Dave. There should have been a little a line. Not always, but typically, a line will pop up. For example, it says Gregster sent a rose or sent several roses. So we know Greg sent a rose. Or it'll say, I've got like Simon sent a team bracelet. So the thing is, not always, but usually it'll say that, but also it's something you should see on the screen. Oh, was it there? It went across the screen for Jamie. Okay, I didn't see it. I must have been in the middle of talking. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Jamie, for that. Other folks did see it though, so thank you. And now I know, so thank you for that. Oh, a subscription gift. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it did pop up. I didn't see that. Okay, good. Oh, sorry. Jamie bought a subscription gift, meaning she gave a gift of a subscription for somebody else to have for the next month. Oh, that was nice of you. Now I want to scroll back and see. I was in the middle of talking and didn't see it. I'm sorry about that. Okay, still. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I believe you, of course. Somebody else saw it too. Thank you for that. Oh, you know what? It doesn't always show me. Andrew may have gotten the subscription gift from you. It says Andrew just subscribed. Andrew Extra, I don't know if you meant to subscribe. If you didn't, then you just got a gift subscription from Jamie for a month. That might be what happened, Jamie. It doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't always tell me when it does that. That might be what happened. Yeah. Would I support the withdrawal of both Hungary and Turkey from NATO or Hungary alone? Hungary. Turkey is a more difficult question. Turkey's playing games, and Turkey deserves to be slapped down when it plays games. But Turkey is oh, okay. Andrew did get the gift from Jamie. There you go. Okay. So Andrew is the one that got it. Thanks for saying that, Andrew. Yeah. I scrolled back and it showed me on the screen that Andrew subscribed. And I thought, oh, that's great. Thanks, Andrew. It didn't mention right before that Jamie's the one that gave the gift. On YouTube, it does that. It actually puts the gift giver, and then right below it goes, this person got the gift. This person got the gift. TikTok, you know. It says, yeah, on my end, when I scrolled back, it didn't say the subscription was sent. Maybe it was further. In any case, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Zerpache, I don't know who you're writing to. You gave me like 4-word sentence, and now you're giving me a 1-word sentence. I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you talking to me or somebody else? I don't know what grapes and definition means. I just have no idea what that means. Oh yeah, but Turkey's very important. Turkey's very important. Okay, perfect example. Somebody just bought 5 gift subscriptions that went to you guys. Who bought them? This drives me crazy, TikTok. See, it says real life subscribes, prosecutor subscribed, Amy, Drew, and Hector. But I'm not seeing the actual gift itself. It was James. Thank you, James. Wow. Only because I'm trying to get this down. Are you guys seeing that it actually, where does it mention? Where does it mention that James did it? Is it like earlier and I'm missing it? I'm literally scrolling and not seeing anything from James on my screen. Or is it popping up at the top of the screen and then disappears? And that's why. And Maurice, I didn't see Maurice either. Thank you, Marie. Oh, it comes up on the screen. Okay. See, this is something TikTok does that drives me crazy. Some of the gifts you see that TikTok puts the line item like on the screen right here. Big Hawk. Oh, Big Hawk muted somebody. That's not a gift. You see that people you see in hell gave me an ice cream cone. Sally sent a rose. Some of the gifts, it throws a little thing at the top of the screen. And I think TikTok thinks it's doing you a favor by making it really obvious. The problem is they put it at the top of the screen for like 2 seconds and then it disappears and is gone. So when I look at the screen, I don't see it anymore. I see the subscriptions are there, but I don't see who gave them. And TikTok has done, I'm telling you, like I could make $1 million being like an engineer advisor for TikTok or for companies overall, because I don't know what it is. They do stuff like this. But it's stupid for it to be at the top of the comments, because if I'm looking away for 1 second, it's gone, right? It should be at the top of the comments and it should be a line item. All right. We don't need to go through all of this, but you get what I'm saying? Like every time I keep seeing the subscriptions, but not that. Yeah. In any case, a dream ticket for 2028. I don't know. Whitmer Buttigieg is interesting. I don't know enough about Whitmer. I mean, I like Buttigieg a lot. He needs to be more seasoned. He needs to be older, and he will have that by 2028. You know, that is baleen in the back, Bubba. I got it from Alaska 30 years ago when I worked 30 years ago. Yep. When I was working for the senator from Alaska. I like people to judge a lot. He needs to be more seasoned. I actually like Kamala Harris. I know like people try to demonize her. I like her. She's smart. I like her personality. Whitmer, people like, I don't know enough about Whitmer, but people like her a lot. Andy Beshear is interesting, who's what governor is at Kentucky. I don't know enough about him, but people like him a lot. So, I don't think Elizabeth Warren is right for the meaning. I don't think she'd win. I think she's too liberal and comes across that way. I just think she wouldn't. Newsom, I think Newsom's the governor of California, and he's an incredible speaker and really goes on the attack very well. But we're talking about possible presidential candidates for Democrats like in 4 years. My only concern with him is, he's the governor of California, and I think he's the former mayor of San Francisco too. I just wonder whether nationally he can win, or whether he'd be so demonized as because basically, if you were the mayor of San Francisco, you were really, really to the left. For America, that's pretty damn far left. It really is. Governor of California, that's a different question, right? Even Republicans who are governor of California are pretty moderate, but governor of California is different. But mayor of San Francisco, I'm not sure. I just don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, what else we got? Yeah. Okay. But John Judge, there is no tornado warning for DC right now. I'm assuming you guys are trying to freak me out again. Here, I'm going to pull up Capital Weather Gang, who are our weather people. Capital Weather Gang. I mean, we do have a tornado watch tonight, and it's true. Now, Washingtonians are pretty bad about this. Washingtonians will get tornado warnings and not go hide, which drives me crazy. In the Midwest, you get a tornado warning, you go downstairs. Yeah, it's still a watch. Yeah, you go downstairs. We've still got our watch until 11 o'clock tonight. Yep. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning, but that's not even for us. That's north of DC. Yes, for Baltimore. Yeah, we're okay here. We're okay. My biggest concern with these warnings is my dog, because she flips out, of course, if there's rain, but she was a little worried earlier. She's calm right now. So I'm hoping it kind of stays that way, Oh, but we're saying Turkey. So the thing with Turkey was, people were asking earlier about Turkey and if I would favor kicking Turkey out of NATO. The problem is Turkey is very important to NATO. Turkey is a very powerful military. I forget, does Turkey have the largest army in NATO? I forget if that's the case. It's close to it. Huge army in Turkey. They have a very strong military. They control access to the Black Sea. Second after the US. Okay, thank you, Ruckinator. I knew it was like huge. Maybe it's the largest in NATO in Europe or something like that. Yeah. I guess it is actually, since you said second. Turkey is a Muslim country. They jut out into the Middle East. They border a number of scary countries like Syria, right? Iraq. It's really potentially Turkey is potentially a great ally if they weren't such idiots in terms of their government. And again, Turkey was playing games with actually Sweden and Finland, and then finally let Finland join NATO, but played games with Sweden forever. It's so basically, but Turkey is important to us. We're important to Turkey. So I think it's important to try to work out the problems. Hungary? I don't freaking need Hungary in NATO, and I don't freaking need Hungary in the EU, or you don't need Hungary in the European Union. Again, now, you don't typically like countries to leave because you don't want to establish precedents where other countries think of leaving. But I would say, Turkey is not a member of the EU anyway because of Cyprus, but Turkey with NATO, leaving NATO, maybe you leave the European Union. We talked about this the other day. Maybe you leave the European Union because you think that economically it's better for you. There's an argument to be made, right? There's no argument to be made that you're better off leaving NATO. If you're a European, you're in Canada too, frankly, but you're in much greater danger if you're not a member of NATO. Russia's not going to be, how's Russia going to defend you, right? You want Russia to be your great defender rather than the US and Germany and France and Poland? Give me a break, So Turkey is very important to NATO. I don't think Turkey is important economically to Europe necessarily, you know. And you get that problem in Turkey's this way. And frankly, this was a concern. This was actually a concern with Eastern Europe getting kind of pulled into NATO and pulled into the European Union, was whether countries that weren't ready were getting brought into the alliance. And Poland, to be honest, up until the war in Ukraine, Poland had some issues, guys. Duda, the president, isn't exactly the biggest Democrat on the block. When I say Democrat, I mean pro-democracy guy. Not exactly, you know, and he really bet on gay rights and other things. I mean, you know, so thank you, Joshua, for the dancing flowers. Anyway. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you. Was it Joshua and Ellie? Thank you, guys. Jamie, I think so. Jamie asks, do you think the United States is going to eventually give Ukraine the go-ahead to strike targets inside Russia? You guys on YouTube may have noticed the dog finally jumped off the couch. The tail was wagging there. I think so. Yes, the Poles are Catholic. Yep. I think so. But it's going to take a while, and God only knows what, you know. But I just, you know, for the U.S. for Biden to finally stop being afraid, because basically we wait a year until it's too late, and then we change our minds on everything we've been afraid of with Russia. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Biden says, "Okay, go ahead, you can attack in Russia." But you know, what do you do? Udapon, I'm not sure what you're referring to. No, we've heard nothing. Actually, Mikey, the latest, Mikey's asking any update on the Czech Republic finding shells from all over the world, actually, not just Europe, to send to Ukraine, artillery shells. The Czech Republic found around 1.5 million artillery shells. I think the cost might have been $2 billion, something like that, to buy artillery shells from all over the world to get to Ukraine, because Ukraine is far behind Russia in terms of the number of artillery shells they have. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the West is very slow at producing them compared to Russia. Russia's producing them like 3 times what we are, and at a quarter of the cost. It's really bad. So Ukraine needs more shells. The Czech government went around and found more shells, like 1.5 million of them around the world. They've got European countries to chip in and give some money to buy the shells. It's not clear whether they got enough money. At one point, they admitted to having like 20% of the money. They didn't have much of it at all. The first installment is coming any day now. The first installment was supposed to be coming in a couple of weeks, so to speak. A couple of weeks is now. So the very first shells should be arriving. How many are coming? Who the hell knows? And how quickly they're coming, we don't know. But there's been no and Snowblade, I don't even know if we knew exactly where they're coming from. Snowblade says the artillery shells are scattered across Africa. I never saw anything that told us exactly where they were coming from. I thought some of them might be South Korea. It mentioned that they were coming from countries that the U.S. maybe doesn't have good relations with, but the Czech government does, which made me wonder if it was maybe Latin America, but definitely Africa, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if it is Africa for that reason. Quality? Good question, Jim. I don't know. Jim asked about the quality. Now, the Russians are getting North Korean artillery shells. The quality is not great. I think they might have even said some of the shells may have a dud rate of like 50%, 50, but they're getting so many of them that they're still helping a lot. So it did say it's helping. EU passed $100 billion aid package. I did not see that. I will believe you if that's true, but I didn't see that unless that was a bit ago. Vietnam, that's very interesting. That would be very interesting. Oh, excuse me, guys. Oh, Oh, what else we got? I've got more bread tonight. Actually, I've got fish. I probably got to make the bread instead. I was going to make fish tonight. I'll make something else. I'll make fish tomorrow. I've got to make my fish because it's thawed out in the fridge, so it better be made tomorrow. But I'm making more cheddar bread today, so it's rising as we speak. I'm very excited. Actually, I want to go turn. 1 second. I'm turning on my oven because the oven has to heat up for half an hour. One moment. Oops. Bake 50. 1 second, guys. Start. All right, there we go. Timer 30. All right, that's rising pretty well, I think. Yeah, that's good. All right. Good. It takes about a half an hour for the Russian to get to temperature, and then it has to heat the bowl. It's like the no knead method. So to sort of try to, it doesn't always work for me to try to make the bread harder, but I'm giving it a try. Thank you, Tom Weber. It's corn. It's corn. I mean, what will the U.S. do with Taiwan? Go to war, I think. I mean, we're trying to send a lot of weapons. Interesting stuff. I mean, I'm trying to read more about Taiwan just because, I mean, the topic interests me. It's important, but I've been focusing so much on Ukraine, of course. Thank you, Ginger. But what's interesting with Taiwan is there's been this dispute between the Americans and the Taiwanese. Thank you, Marie. And I'm trying to remember exactly, but bottom line is the Americans and the Taiwanese differ on what they think Taiwan should be preparing for and what kind of weapons, therefore, they would need, et cetera. And the Taiwan is looking at one kind of defense, and the Americans are looking at another kind of defense. Because there is a new Taiwan aid package that got passed along the same time that Ukraine got passed, right? The $60 billion for Ukraine. I was reading that will give the Americans much more control because it's the American government that decides what weapons we give Taiwan. That will give us more control in trying to influence what weapons Taiwan uses because we're going to say, these are the weapons we're giving you, you know? So, but there's an interesting dispute going on that, again, the military experts could tell you about strategy in terms of what the best way is to prevent, you know, basically prevent, well, not just prevent, but prevent China from attacking, but winning the war if Russia attacks, you know. Trump VP, God only knows. God only knows. I think vice president picks are often, unless you had an open primary, right? Like if you have an open primary, often the number 2 person gets it. Like Bill Clinton picks Al Gore. Al Gore was like, you know, the other guy that was doing really well in the primary. But when there isn't an open primary like the Republicans right now, it's Trump who was, I mean, it was, but it wasn't. It was Trump. I think usually you get surprised at who they pick for vice president. So God only knows. I suspect it'll be horrible, but he may surprise us. Maybe it'll be Nikki Haley. I mean, she's got issues, but she's not like Trump. You know, I mean, you know, this is where I'm saying, like, we can agree to disagree on Nikki Haley, but she's not Donald Trump. You know, Nikki Haley would be qualified to be president, even though I have issues with her. JD Vance is not qualified to be president. He's terrible. Haley's fine. Again, I don't agree with her politics, but she's fine. But I think he's going to pick somebody crazy like JD Vance. I would be surprised. Oh gosh. I'm going to yawn at you again. Sorry, guys. Oh, I woke up a lot last night. I just kind of, every couple hours I kept waking up. It was like, and my dog kept moving in bed. And every time because she sleeps with me, every time she moves, I'm like, you know, waking me up. Tom Cotton is VP. That's possible. Kind of funny because Cotton, there were rumors at one point about Mr. Cotton's love life. We'll leave it at that. So I'd be kind of surprised if he got picked. There were also rumors about what's his face, Scott, who's the senator from South Carolina. He's never becoming vice presidential candidate. Basically, a bunch of Republicans came out and accused him of being gay, which I never even heard the rumors about the guy. But then his answers were, this is his black Republican senator. His answers were so bad in explaining that he wasn't gay. They were horrible answers. And they were the kind of answers that basically only a closeted gay man would give, because a straight man would give much better answers as to, like, I mean, if you're straight, it's not hard to explain that you're straight, right? You don't fumble the answer. This guy fumbled the answer a lot. So, you know, Taiwan becoming a proxy war. First of all, I find the word proxy war to be a little cheap. Because I think a proxy war is, I don't know. I have a very hard time even defining proxy war. When I hear the word proxy war, it makes me conjure up the notion of, we're trying to stick it to the Russians. So we're going to fund all these little wars happening around the world so that all these countries go to war with Russia, or they're already at war with Russia. And we're going to keep helping them just to screw the Russians, right? So that it's a proxy for us going to war. Ukraine, I mean, that's my first problem, is I find for me, the term proxy war, also, you know why too? Because also, I was just going to say, because a proxy war is Russian propaganda, as Mysterioso just said. The term proxy war is used by pro-Russian people usually. because they use it in a negative sense to somehow mean your aid is illegitimate. Like, and I love it because it makes me laugh, because the argument, I'm always like, yeah, you're right. I'm proud of it. The argument is, it's not Ukraine fighting Russia. The Russians said this last week. The US and the UK are a party to this war. And I'm like, hell yeah, we are. Are you kidding me? Our weapons have been killing Russian troops for 2.5 years. Of course we're a party to this war. Are you stupid? I mean, so to me, like, it always kind of laughs when people use the word proxy war, because usually it's the critics who use it. And I'm like, hell yeah. You know, you're like, well, I don't care. Thank you, Sally, for the fire. But basically, we get involved in wars when they are incredibly important to our national security. Ukraine is very important. Taiwan, I think, is even more important, although Ukraine went from being very important to extremely important. I think Ukraine, as the war went on, we've all woken up to the fact that Russia is the new Soviet Union, right? You know, they might have been a pain in the ass before. Now they are extremely dangerous. And they are as dangerous as the Soviets were in a sense. I mean, the Soviets were more dangerous. The Soviets were bigger. The Soviets had more weapons, more men, right? So the Soviets were more dangerous. They had more power, economic and military. But the Russians have the same mindset as the Soviets. I mean, they're the follow-ons. You know, it's the same people, right? Putin was a Soviet. Putin was a KGB colonel. I mean, he was a communist. He was a Soviet. It's not like, you know, the Soviet Union dissolved and Putin became a good guy or something. He was no longer wanting world domination, you know, and supporting dictatorships in Eastern Europe, right? I mean, this is who he is. So yeah. What do I think about Svoboda? Well, I know it means freedom in many Eastern European countries, but I'm not sure. Is it a political party or what is it? I don't know what it is, other than the word freedom in Poland and Ukraine and probably a bunch of other countries. But yeah, so I mean, Taiwan would be a just war. I hope to God we don't go to war with China. If they take Taiwan, I think we do. Also, and part of the problem, this is like the Ukraine thing too, part of the problem is, if you promise to defend countries, America doesn't have a choice. We have promised repeatedly to go to war over Taiwan. Biden, 3 different times, I think, Biden was asked about Taiwan and said we'd go to war if China invaded. The American president can't say that and then not have it happen. I mean, so, you know, otherwise our commitments mean nothing to anybody in the world. So we almost don't have a choice, but also Taiwan is incredibly important because of computer chips. China gets control of the world's computer chips and kiss everything goodbye. So, but China needs to know that we're going to war if they invade, and that's the only thing that'll stop China from invading. TSMC, exactly. There's actually 2 or 3 big telecommunication. I'm forgetting the names of them. Was it Taiwan Semiconductor is the one. There's another big one, at least one other, maybe 2 other big ones in Taiwan too. I'm forgetting the other names of the big semiconductor companies, but that's one of them. Yeah, Mad Max. Anyway, what else? Well, Trump just isn't consistent. ASML, was that the other? I don't remember what that one is though. Scott, is CP Scott? That's not Chad, is it? I don't know. Rockinator, is that Chad? CPS Scott 15? But NVIDIA, yeah, Chad's great. NVIDIA is an American company. They're American. I like Chad. He seems very good. That's been my impression of him. Yeah, he seems very good. People seem to like him too. Yeah, he's good. I was just watching. He did an interesting piece this morning. I was watching. Chad did on TikTok about. Thank you, Jonathan, for the gift. About China's threat to our aircraft carriers and how a lot of people are saying our aircraft carriers are sitting ducks. If we have war with China, they'll take them out. And he was giving a number of reasons why actually that's not really true, including they can hide, which I never thought an aircraft carrier could hide. He said the sea is so large they can hide. And I was like, don't satellites track full time? You know what I mean? But oh well. But also we've put so much money into defenses for aircraft carriers that in fact he says our fleet would be pretty safe, which I thought was very interesting. ASML, that's a good question. Huge Mark or Hi Mark. Is that Mark was asking if ASML isn't the Netherlands company? Because remember, there's a really big semiconductor company, or they manufacture part of the semiconductors. Remember in Netherlands? ASML is Dutch. Mad Max says, okay, yep. Then I don't remember what the other, there's another one in Taiwan. There's at least two big semiconductor companies that are the big ones. Oh, thank you. Who was that? Who did the balloons on YouTube? It's not telling me who. That was very cool. Thank you for that. I have no idea who that was. Wait, hold on. I'm going to click the button and see if it tells me. If I click fan funding, it's not actually telling me. I don't know who that was. Sorry, go back to live chat. Whoever it was, feel free to tell me. That was very nice of you. Those were cool. You worked. Oh, that's interesting. You worked for them in Eindhoven. Interesting. TSMC. That's semiconductor, but what's the other one? Aren't there two of them in Taiwan? There's another big one in Taiwan. I know. I remember this. There were like two big ones in Taiwan because I almost invested in them once. I didn't. I did invest in NVIDIA. Woo! That was a good one. But I almost bought the Taiwan ones and I didn't. Glad I bought NVIDIA, but not advice, not economic advice. That's for sure. Aircraft. Oh, thank you, Ginger, for the drink. Aircraft carriers can go 50 plus kilometers an hour. That's what he was saying, like 35 miles an hour. I find that funny to imagine on our roads. Yeah. And also, I didn't think 35 miles an hour was very fast, but he said that gives you a lot, within half an hour, it gives it because the ocean is very large, it gives you the ability to really go and hide. Anyway, thank you, Colin. I'm just a little surprised because, and again, it's been a very long time since I had anything to do with military satellites. I had to know something about satellites back when I was doing arms control issues in the Senate, but I have no idea now. I just assumed like Chinese satellites. I'm gonna get my dog some water. That Chinese satellites always knew where our aircraft carriers are. But I don't know whether. I mean, hold on. Daytime, you'd think they'd see us during the day and they wouldn't lose us. And at night, the heat signature you'd think would be so big that they'd see us. I don't know. I find it confusing. I have to Google it, or maybe we'll get Chad on and ask him. Yes, that was a Sasha break. Oh, hey, Gunther. I know it does feel like a holiday, doesn't it? Yeah. No, Iman, because this is Ukraine. I just honestly, I have never liked reporting on the Middle East. I find people pretty immature when discussing the Middle East. I tried it for a few months, and what happened? People went crazy. So I don't know that I'm going to be reporting on the Middle East again because people can't handle it. And I've never liked talking about it because it's always been this way. For 30 years, people have been lunatics when discussing the Middle East. Literally, they just become idiots. So I'm kind of like, and there's other issues too. I mean, in America too, the American politics that you can't talk about. I'm not going to name them, but it's just like, so I just kind of am like, you know what, screw it. So yeah, thanks Jay for the donut. So I will occasionally get into the whole Arab-Israeli conflict thing, but not on a regular basis because it's just not worth it. So, it's 70-year conflict. It's arguably several thousand years too, George, but it certainly is 70 or 75 years at least, Well, and Pedro, the problem is people don't just get annoyed. They get obnoxious, You can't disagree with people in the Middle East or it's like, and like, give me a break. It is a screwed up region and there's a lot of gray in terms of people's actions and it's very confusing and very complicated. A lot of people have done a lot of bad things for a very long time. The Americans will know what this is. It's the Hatfields and the McCoys. Well, younger Americans may not even know that metaphor. Older ones will, where the killing's been going on for so long that everyone has an excuse to kill now. And unless people want to settle down and reach out a deal, they never will because everyone just wants to kill everybody. And it's like, okay, So anyway, it's religion. It's not just religion though. It's power. It's everything, It's not just religion. I mean, Israel's not doing what it's doing because of religion. Israel's doing what it's doing because of survival. Now, you could still argue they're committing war crimes, right? I mean, that doesn't mean that they're not committing crimes. But I think it would be wrong to say Israel's doing what it is just because of religion. And the Palestinians, are they really fighting for what they're fighting because of religion? Really? I mean, You know what I mean? Like there's a religious component to the terrorist groups and things, of course, but right. But, they want a homeland. They want some land back. Good luck with that. But that's not necessarily religious. They just want they want a country, So I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes people say it's religious and it almost oversimplifies it a little bit, Do I think the U.S. will allow Ukraine to strike Russia? I think maybe, Steve, and I think it'll be like too late. Maybe it'll be 6 months or a year from now. Who knows? I think we'll come along. Then again, if Trump wins, if Trump wins the presidency, good luck even getting any money to Ukraine at all. So that's a whole other problem there. Right? Trump wins in the fall. Our elections are early November. Trump wins and, well, Davis, lots of people want their land back too. Native Americans want their land back too. But, the Germans probably would like some of their land back, as would the Poles. I'm not sympathetic to the whole they want their land back argument. Also, because, it wasn't their land originally anyway. It was probably the Jews' land if we're going to play this game. That's why I don't like this issue, because it's stupid. We play games like this. I don't mean to criticize you, but I'm not a big fan of who had the land first. Because it's frankly the gentrification argument. I mentioned this in America too. The neighborhood was black. Well, okay. And it was probably Latino before that. And it was white before that. And it wasn't just white, but it was German. And then it was Irish, probably Irish and then German, to be honest. Right. And maybe it was Italian. I'm kind of like, I don't get real hung up on, well, 50, 100 years ago, so-and-so lived there. Man, it just doesn't. Because again, if we're going to play the games of who was there, the Jews are going to say they were there thousands of years ago. Mark, don't be a troll. Don't be a troll. Now, Mark's being a troll because, again, I'm not gonna get sucked into a discussion on this, guys, because he's a perfect example. You just can't discuss this stuff. Anyway, trying to be rational real life. People don't like it. Steve, with Russia hitting that hardware store the other day, do you think this will prompt more involvement? Possibly. We have seen, there was an article in the New York Times a few days ago about how American Secretary of State Blinken is, more favorable now to letting Ukraine use American weapons to hit Russian troops or Russian weapons inside Russia. And he pointed to, or the article said, people around him said that he's thinking of that all the Russian attacks in eastern Ukraine around Kharkiv, killing all the civilians, have convinced him that I am tired because the dog had me up all night. That these attacks had convinced him that we needed to give Ukraine permission to attack the Russians in Russia because they're attacking Ukraine from within Russia, and Ukrainians can't stop them unless they attack. So your question with that was, oh, do I think it'll prompt more involvement? It sounds like that's already certainly gotten Blinken, our Secretary of State, to change some of his mind. Thank you, Super Hornet. I think the more the Russians kill civilians, the more it makes NATO countries worried and want to do more. But, does that mean they will? I don't know. Iman, I don't know why. Honestly, because it's a cult. I mean, Iman says, why do so many MAGA supporters support Putin? Because it's a cult. And I say this, we have learned that a lot of human beings are very simple-minded. They want somebody very strong to tell them what to think and who to hate and who to like. And it doesn't matter what they believed before. It doesn't matter what they know in history. The fact that any American, let alone a Republican American, would sit there and look at Russia and look at Putin and say, hey, these are the kind of people I want to be. I love them. I like the way they act. I think we should defend them. That any Republican would say that when Republicans have a long history of knowing exactly who the Russians are is sickening to me. That suggests a cult mentality. It suggests people who literally don't believe in anything, who just want a strong man, and I mean man, not a woman. They want a strong man to tell them what to think, and they just don't care if it totally contradicts what they used to believe before. And that's how screwed up it is. And honestly, it could happen to Democrats too. I mean, Democrats don't have a crazy man running the party right now, but if they were, maybe Democrats would go along with a crazy person running the Democratic Party too, because I think we're talking about human beings here. I think, unfortunately, human beings have and what's her face? One of my favorite poets, Sylvia Plath, had a famous line in one of her poems, "Every woman loves a fascist." I'm kind of thinking everybody loves a fascist. It might be, that's not what she meant, but that might be maybe more to the truth, that there's a little bit of fascism lurking inside everybody. And fascism doesn't have to be right-wing. It can be left-wing too, I would argue, but meaning authoritarianism, not really believing in liberal values, and liberal meaning liberalism, not left, but meaning democracy. I love Sylvia Plath, loved her poems. They're so vicious. She's a great writer. If Trump wins, Americans won't revolt. No, because Republicans will be thrilled and Democrats don't turn violent, generally speaking. So if Biden wins, will Republicans revolt? Maybe. Trump will probably tell them to turn violent again. Yeah, there's a real strong risk of that, because Trump is fomenting stochastic terrorism. Google it. Whereas Democrats lose, and Democrats, if a Democrat loses fairly, Democrats accept elections. They believe in democracy generally, and they don't tend to be violent, right? I mean, Republicans are the ones with guns that tend to do bad things. I mean, they do stuff like they talk about civil war. Democrats don't talk about civil war. Republicans do. So no, if it's a fair election, Democrats won't do anything violent. If Trump steals the election like he tried to do last time, then I think we're in trouble as a country. Then I think there will be violence. If he steals the election, then he isn't really president. And if he's not really president, then we've had a coup d'etat. And if we have a coup d'etat, I think there absolutely will be violence. So we'll see. Anyway, you're funny, M. I thought you wrote "is" at first, and I was just ignoring it. I was like, all right. TikTok. Then I saw "isn't." I went, okay. But again, I don't really care if somebody says that anyway. I'm like, okay, whatever, but it's very funny. I did see that and I was like, whoosh. Well, that's the funny thing. Melissa raises a funny point. Trump is trying to make the argument in court that as president of the United States, he can do anything. His lawyer even defended the notion that as president of the United States, Trump could assassinate his political opponents, and he's exempt because he's president. And some, people have been joking that Biden ought to turn around if Trump wins the election and kind of end it, and say, I'm immune, and say I'm not leaving office, because if you're immune, then you can also not leave office and you're immune. Obviously that would be a bad thing, but it is kind of ironic that Trump is arguing for the kind of powers that, he would never want used against him. But again, he's arguing for them because they're powers he would use. They're not powers that any normal, any serious Democratic presidential candidate would never be talking about using the kind of powers Trump wants to use, because they not only believe in democracy, the Democrats believe in democracy. So, anyway. Oh, it already is almost half after. I think we're going to go, guys. We're already at an hour and a half into the show. Lowercase d Democrat, exactly. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna call it quits. Let's not do a recap. I'm never in the mood to do a recap when we've been going for an hour and a half. But thank you, everybody. I will be back tomorrow. Exactly, Alec. We'll all be back tomorrow. The Bond movies. Also, Boris and Natasha. Wonderful cartoon series as well. Terry Davis says, do you think there are Trumpers in Papua New Guinea? What do you mean? They seem like they grew everywhere. Well, who knows? I mean, we've got somebody in the UK who got pissed off tonight who's a Trumper. Although, again, who knows what that person was. Thank you, Dina. That was very cute. And thank you, user 9923 for the roses. Appreciate that. Okay, guys. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's tornado warnings now, but there weren't tornado warnings before. We had tornado watches earlier, not a warning. I was saying I will do one last look. I've got my my Twitter weather folks who are really good. Like the sort of the best weather folks for weather. Still tornado watch. Nope. Nothing. Nope. Not for DC. Nope. Which is good. I'm going to keep an eye on it, but nope. Nothing yet. All right, guys. Thank you all. Just being cheeky. Oh, okay. Oh yeah. I assumed you were being funny. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you all tomorrow. We do this every night, Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, almost every night, but this week, nothing should be interfering. 6 o'clock Eastern time, US. And we talk about the news. We talk about Ukraine, but we talk about other stuff too. I'm open, other than the Middle East. I'm pretty open to talking about it. I will enjoy the bread. Thank you. Although the bread does have to cool 2 hours, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. By the time it's cooked, it'll be ready around 8:20, maybe. And then it has to cool 2 hours. So the bread won't be ready till 10:30. So I may have my bread as a snack tonight. We will see. All right, guys. Thank you all for the gifts. You were very generous. You were particularly generous tonight. We had several new subscribers. We had several gift subscriptions that were really sweet of you as well. Thank you, user 336. So I appreciate that, guys. You missed the weekend. Sorry about that, John Judge. All right, guys. Yeah, come over at 10:30 exactly. Yulia, I don't know. I mean, I'll have Yulia back, but I'm not going to have her every week. I don't have the same people every week, but she'll be back. Thank you, Tom Weber. All right, guys. Let's talk later. All right. See you, YouTubers and TikTokers. See you guys.